Thanks for being here, and happy to see many familiar faces and few new faces as well. So first of all, thanks for being here, right? And I'm Madushan. I go as a Senior Cloud Solutions Architect. So before I jump into the session, the topic says cybersecurity investments. Hot topic, agreed? Yes. And of course, right. Once again, the term zero trust. How many of you are familiar with? Okay. How many of you are working on it? How many of you are having it in place? Sad to see this. We are there to help you, not to worry. So, your zero trust starts with what? What is zero trust? Your user identity, whereas, okay, before I jump into that, one more question. How many of you are on-premise based infrastructure who is being managed within your environment? How many of you are having it? Only on-premise environment. And hybrid, how many? Cloud only? Very few. Good. Right. So, the zero trust, yes, we were bound behind a corporate firewall, a corporate network, where we used to connect via VPN from home, or else we have to come to office in place. That is no longer the case. Even if you connect, do you have zero trust in place with your corporate network? Not at all. Right. So it starts with your identity, whereas your username and password. Then of course, the devices. So how many of us, we have the visibility of what are the devices that are connected to my network, apart from the devices which are registered in your Active Directory? Since you are with cloud, cloud is meant to be accessed from anywhere. Agreed? Yes. So, in case if there is a anonymous sign-in coming in from a country which you are not operating at all, how do you make sure that is taken care of and that is denied and that is not causing any damage to your environment? Do you have this challenge as of now? Yes, right. And then of course, speaking of data, so that's the most critical thing, but before we reach out to there, we have to take care of your access levels and the device levels. Right. And of course, setting up zero trust, we need to have the right tools in place, right? And does it mean having the tool will do everything? Nope, definitely not. So how do we streamline that? How do we adapt to zero trust in your day-to-day operations? How do we make sure a user who joins your organization newly is aligned to your zero trust journey? Whereas, of course, the IT team will take care of the user creation, so and so. The device also will be handed over to the end user. But how the zero trust applies there? The challenge, right? And of course, then after, driving the productivity. So this is sort of a journey which starting off with zero trust itself, and then of course streamlining your, I would say the endpoint management, the end users access so and so, and then having your productivity and collaboration in place. So it's just a number, right? And in terms of speaking about zero trust, of course, the identity. If you look at most of the attacks are based on identity, right? Because as soon as you have your username and password, anyone can log in from anywhere. Let's say you have multi-factor authentication. Still, are you secure 100%? Not at all, right? So how do we make sure and how do we align to zero trust in terms of your multi-factor as well? Then of course, defending against threats. Let's say the endpoint that you use, it has to have, yes, a virus card up and running, any layer of protection up and running. And then of course, having your data protected with, it could be your data encryption, or it could be data classification, information rights management, so and so. How do we make sure your ID and your endpoint are gelled together? So that is where the very first entry point starts off, right? And I'll just explain you the flow here, and I'll switch to demo at the latter part of it. And how many of you, like, the passwords that you use, is it cumbersome to remember and change on a routine basis, so and so? Definitely yes. So how do we go with passwordless? What is passwordless here? Anyone has tried passwordless? Happy to see. And okay, so passwordless, does it mean that password is removed completely? No. Your password will be there, but you don't use your passwords on a day-to-day basis. That's what passwordless is meant here. The reason behind, in case your passwordless is not working, then you have a backup option which is password, once again protected with MFA. Right. And resetting of passwords, user getting prompts, and let's say the amount of applications that you grant access to each and every user. Right? So you have your Azure Active Directory or you have your Windows Active Directory. But how do you handle access to all the other applications across your, right? So basically, you can have your HRIS application, any amount of applications there, right? So how do we evaluate the access, and then of course, how do we make sure the access is revoked? Yes, at the same time, the access is revoked across all the applications. So, yes, so defending against threat once again, if you remember, the last weekend was a hot topic for Sri Lanka. Are you all aware of it? Hopefully everyone is aware of it. The reason behind, it caused a massive damage to our government itself. Why? Let's say, okay, it was running on on-prem. Any other challenges? Do you have that challenge in your environment? How ready are you to face an attack? Let's say there is an ransomware. How are you going to protect yourself? And keeping your softwares up to date, having your devices evaluated not on and off, regularly, on a authentication basis where you keep your devices evaluated as well. So, these are common challenges, and even though we invest on best of breed products for firewalls, virus guards, device management, everything, but still we lack in. Why? And of course, coming to data protection as well. So if you have those two layers protected, and how will your data will be safeguarded there? So in terms of data protection, yes, data in transit or data at rest, data in use, everywhere it should be encrypted. And then of course, identifying your data, which is more crucial, confidential to your organization, and how do you do that differentiation? If a confidential data is being shared with an outsider, what will be the impact there? Whether it can be read by the user or it can be blocked, not to be viewed at all, so and so. Right. Simply having all these challenges in place, how do we streamline this? Simply, I'll just switch this as well. Yes. Delivering the best experience. So if you look at your on-premise environment where all your devices are intact with your Windows Active Directory environments. But how many of us are having mobile devices in place? Right? It can be for your personal use as well as for your corporate use. So do you have the visibility of who are using my corporate resources on a personal device and how that is being tackled? Meaning like, if I configure my email box to my personal mobile, how do we make sure the data stays protected, and even though it's on a personal mobile? Do you have this challenge or not? So, having all these challenges in place, if this can be catered and addressed under single umbrella, what will you do? Will this help you address your zero trust journey? Definitely, it will. The reason behind, if you look at your endpoints, let's say we are on Windows 10, Windows 11, and your server OS, doesn't matter. So if you look at your endpoints, most of us are with Windows, and we have the minority with Mac OS as well. So how do you make sure you have a standardized operating system layer across your organization? So how many of you are with Windows 10 and on a latest update? Let's say 22H2. And will there be a new version released on Windows 10? No, because the last edition of Windows 10 would be Windows 10 22H2, which is in place currently, and that will be supported till 2025. Then after, it's going to be only Windows 11. So if you look at Windows 11, yes, it has most of the apps supported on the platform, and then having the zero trust in place built into it. Whereas you have the TPM layer to protect your credentials. Apart from that, a virtualization-based security layer built into it, right? And then, of course, having all that in place, still we have challenges. Let's say, for an example, I'm unable to go cloud. That is because of my on-premise dependencies. That is, it could be your file server, or mainly it could be your printer servers, right? So how many of you are struggling with printer servers which cannot be taken to cloud, right? Whereas you can have your printer servers in cloud. The same legacy printers can be managed through cloud without any interruptions. You have that possibility